Okay, awesome. Welcome, Youssef, to DIAC Day. For everybody tuning in, DIAC Day is a new series of chats that we're doing with builders in the DIAC space. And DIAC is a philosophy that was originally coined by Vitalik in 2023 in his essay, My Techno-Optimism. I really recommend checking that out if you haven't read it. He talks about the importance of accelerating technology, but doing so in a defensive, decentralized, differential, and democratic way. And in particular talks about the importance of, yes, let's accelerate things, but let's actually be a little bit cautious about how we do this and think about how we accelerate, especially things like AI, in a way where we don't end up with doom scenarios for humanity. And I think an interesting recent event or post was actually the Pope coming out talking about the importance of being careful and mindful around AI development, which was kind of an interesting thing. I wasn't really expecting the Pope to start making DIAC posts, but there you go. Maybe we'll get him on here next time. But today we have Youssef from Backup Buddy. So welcome, Youssef. It's great to have you here. Maybe we can start off just by you sharing a little bit about yourself and what you're building.
Well, thank you, Ale, for inviting me. So yeah, I'm working on Backup Buddy. It's basically just an identity-based social recovery tool. Our goal is to make sure that you never lose your digital assets. In a world where we think that most people are going to go self-custodial and own their own assets, we think that in the current state of things, it's very easy for the vast majority of people to just lose access to their coins or to their digital identity. Um, I mean, even more maybe than potential hacks or the risk of centralization. We actually think that most people over time, if they lose their money, is going to be because they lost their seed phrase or because they didn't have like the proper backup for their keys. And
Yeah.
so I'm working on exactly that.
So important. My mom asked me recently if she wants to buy something, and she was like asking me, what should you use? And I was really like, I really don't want to recommend a centralized platform, but at the same time, I feel like, especially with people that are less familiar with the technical side of things. And she's actually pretty tech savvy, but still, even then, it's just like she's ADHD like me, and like she likes losing things, and like the chance of her losing like a a seed phrase seems high. It just feels like in those contexts, it's really hard, and there are not good solutions. But at the same time, do I really want to suggest more of the same? So it feels like Backup Buddy could be a good solution for people like that. Can you explain a little bit how it would work for the user?
Exactly. It's so the goal is really to make sure that even non-tech savvy people can use it, and also tech savvy people, because I think I'm pretty tech savvy, and I'm also not super confident in my setup in case of maybe if I'm losing my computer or my phone at the same time, which could happen
Mm.
if they're both in the same bag or something like that.
Yeah.
And so the way it works is basically that. It's social recovery, kind of like how Vitalik talks about it in his paper. He talks a bit about like cyber defense, and part of that is social recovery. And the idea with social recovery is that currently it's pretty difficult to set up because you need to have tech savvy friends or family
Mm.
that you basically ask them to use a wallet, use a MetaMask or a Ledger, but then
Mm.
it's for most people it's going to be very difficult to just onboard them for that. It's kind of a weird also conversation to have. It's like even if it's like not for a lot of money or if it's for your digital identity, um, there is this underlying tone of are you a billionaire for if you are coming to ask me to buy a ledger to protect your
Mm.
assets. And so it's in all aspects it's kind of difficult to set up social recovery. And the way it works with us is that you have a main private key, an encryption key that will encrypt the file, and this file contains all of your secrets, or at least the secrets that are important, like your private keys and things like that. And as long as you can recover that file, you can recover everything. And so the way we make sure that you can always recover your file is by having multiple ways of letting you recover. Um, some of them require us to verify our identity with privacy preserving tech, like for example ZK proofs of your passport, or with something like an actual KYC for people that would prefer that, because we have met some people that are not super comfortable with ZK proofs yet,
Mm.
and so that would be one way. Another way is if you basically have we let you basically generate multiple shares, and those shares you can send them to people around you. It's not the same as asking them to create a wallet. They don't need to have any account or of anything. They don't need to download an app or anything. You can just send them a link. In our first version, in our first prototype, the link was, when you clicked on it, it was basically adding an invite, like the same as a Luma invite or a boarding ticket on your Apple Wallet or your Google Wallet app. And it's something that's very difficult to lose for even very non-tech savvy people, because iCloud just keeps it in your archives. You can always get it back in some way. And the
Mhm.
interesting thing is that even if you were to have your social recovery set up using tech savvy friends and all of that, you still had like problems of like potential collusion in your circles, or worse, if your friends get hacked or your family gets hacked. Um,
Mm.
in our system, it's not the case. If a hacker is able to get all the shares of your friends and family, they can't do much with it, because the shares only unlock one part of the file, and it's not like it only unlocks one part of the encryption key that we're using for the file. In order to unlock the rest of the encryption key, you need to also provide your identity. So either through ZK proofs or with the actual KYC. And you also keep a small part of the encryption key yourself on your device. It's fine if you lose it. There's always ways to regenerate it on a new device, but only letting you regenerate it, not a potential hacker.
Mm.
And overall, you would always have like roughly 3 ways of recovering your secrets, recovering your wallets, even 10 years later, even 50 years later, and potentially
Mhm.
for also your descendants. Um, and those 3 ways are using basically the piece of information that's on your device, the one that we keep as backup body, and the one that is split between your friends and family. If you decided to do that, you could also decide to keep it yourself in a different way. And as long as you have 2 out of those 3 methods, 3 pieces of information, you can always recover. So even if we go down as backup buddy,
Mhm.
even if we stop existing and our servers go down, you can still recover your account. If you lose your device, you can still recover your account. If uh, for any reason you cannot get your shares back from your friends and family, if 20 years later, you can still recover. You can just always have like one way of doing it. And we are sort of betting on the fact that um, the the friction that people are willing to go through in order to recover a wallet is pretty high, but
Mm.
the friction that they're willing to go to when they're setting up their backup is very low. So because when you're doing that, you write the seed phrase, you think, I'm going to remember, like it's very low stakes, but at some point maybe you're going to have a lot of money there, and if you lose access to that, you're willing to put way more work to recover it. And so
Mhm.
we want backup buddy to be very, very simple to set up, um, and have quite a lot of friction to recover, but only
Mhm.
friction that is friction to other people, like hackers and stuff, and not just friction, but like just being practically like impossible to get access to your account unless it's you. Um,
Mhm.
and that's the
Amazing.
project basically.
Amazing. Thank you for explaining that. Like, yeah, is an incredibly good explanation, and it really helps to understand how much you've really thought about this. And I love that you that you've really thought about the friction at the beginning wanting to be low, and the friction when someone's trying to get in, making that as high as possible. It makes total sense. So thank you for that detailed explanation. It's really cool. I'm curious to hear how much, I mean, it sounds to me like you've thought quite a bit about DIAC and read quite a bit. So what does DIAC mean to you? And yeah, what are your thoughts on the movement and philosophy?
I mean, I think it means it's something I'm very aligned with. When I first read the Vitalik post, um, it resonated a lot with me, because when he posted it, it was there was this trend of EAC, and it made sense to me. Part of it made sense to me, but not everything, because it looked
Yeah.
like It's okay, it's great to accelerate, but like you can also accelerate in making a lot of weapons. It's like, why would you
Mm,
want to do that? Like, is there, or at least give me a specific reason, but not just saying accelerate. And then Vitalik started sharing those same concerns. And so for me, DIAC really means one thing, and it's um, the understanding that technological progress and acceleration is something that we can't really afford to not have, but the but we also cannot afford to have the wrong kind of acceleration. And
mm,
so what is the right kind? I think it's partly defined, or pretty well defined, by what Vitalik talks about in the original essay, but also after. So it's whatever is pushing the boundaries of technology without while remaining very defensive. So without creating potential um, catastrophes
mm,
just for the sake of technology. Um, that's roughly my and is the way I was thinking about accelerationism before Vitalik was talking about it was in the sense of technology should be used for making humans more to let humans keep their agency and making them have
mm,
more agency. And it's something that really resonates with me. It's also the part of the reason why Backup Buddy exists is it's great that you are able to have your wallets and you are able to own your money and all of that, but like you have a lot of agency, but you lose it immediately if you lose a piece of paper or if Google Cloud goes down, because
mm.
a few people are using cloud providers to back up their, or it's not really their choice to do it, it's the wallet that does it for them, which is understandable, but it reduces agency over time, in my opinion. And for me, DIAC is technology that doesn't do that, that keeps human in the center, keeps human agency uh, in the center of what we want to build in the future.
Yeah, and I love that you've built it in a way that doesn't rely on backup buddy still existing. That's a great example of that human agency. So I really respect that. I love your interpretation and your explanation. It resonates a lot. So thank you for sharing that. Um, what else did I want to ask? Okay, so you're building backup buddy. You're doing something pretty cool. How far along are you? Is this like already ready for users to try, or where are you at?
So just for a bit of the history, because I think it's
Mhm,
relevant for Switzerland.
mhm,
It's question I've been working on for like the last 2 years, and the person I'm working with is Seb, is someone who has also worked for a pretty long time on that, more on the academic side, like how does social recovery work? Is it feasible? But um, and we met each other at Switzerland, and
mm,
quickly after that, we built a first prototype in ETH Global Can, and that prototype was working. It was like a fully working prototype. It's not something we would recommend people to use because it's a prototype where you put your seed phrase in, but for a technical demo, it works because the people we're presenting it to understand that it's just a technical demo. But
yeah,
yeah, it's all on our GitHub for if Global Can. It shows if someone wants to get into the details of how it works. It's all building on top of open source standards and cryptography that is already well recognized and well accepted. And so after that prototyping can, we realized that we needed to focus more on the product because we can't have something that where people put their seed phrase. It kind of goes against everything that people were taught when it comes to crypto security. And so we continued iterating on the product. And now for DevConnect, we have a version that is usable. It will start with a private beta during DevConnect or a few days before, and anyone is free to send us a message and try it out. But because it's based on security, it's security, and it's also a bit, at least in the beginning, trust based. We want to make sure that people understand the product that they're using, but we want to quickly make it available. And yeah, so for DevConnect, we're gonna have a product that is fully working. The way it works, practically speaking, is that you create an account. When you do that, you create an account with email. When you do that, you immediately get your file and a bunch of stuff happening in the background. But the important thing for you is that you're going to be prompted to choose a number of shares that you want to generate and a threshold. And this threshold is the minimum amount of shares you need to get to recover part of your account. So we recommend people to do 3 out of 9, but you could
Mhm.
be 2 out of 5 or whatever. Let's say you choose 3 out of 9. It means that in the next page, you're going to see 9 shares. You can send them by email, Telegram, WhatsApp, or you can just copy them and keep them on the flash drive. You decide what to do with it. And if one day you need to recover, you're going to need to get 3 back. But that's just the last resort. You also have other ways to recover before using your identity. And then if you want to, you can use one of our identity providers. The first one that's going to be available at launch is going to be Self. So Self is, it's basically technology for generating ZK proofs of your passport and other chip-based identity cards. And it's also, by the way, a project that was started in ETH Global Paris.
Oh, well.
And yeah, because it's actually a fun fact about Self. I think is a fun fact. One of the reason that Self was started was because of social recovery. At least because I was in the very initial team, I quickly left to work on like all of things that were not too much in ZK because I had a hard time with ZK. But in that very first version, one of the things I wanted with the ZK proofs of passports and identity cards was for social recovery, and so that's what we're building now with Backup Buddy. And so the first identity provider is going to be Self. Um, so if you have a passport or a few other things are supported, like the Indian national ID card and the European card.
Yeah.
Some of them from some countries are already supported. And once you have that, you basically you cannot get access to your secrets without being able to prove your identity again, unless you still have the shares plus the piece of information that was put in your device. And that's it. So that product, and once you're in, like once you have your account, you can add as many wallets as you want. By default, you can create EOA, so the same as a MetaMask account or what a ledger gives you,
Mhm.
just a private key-based account. But very quickly, we hope for DevConnect, but if it's not, it would be a bit later. We want to let you also create a safe wallet. So the same as Gnosis Safe, how it was,
Mhm.
we used to call it. So the safe wallet, where basically it's, in my opinion, even better than the EOA because um, the backup buddy becomes just the recoverer. And by backup buddy, I mean your backup buddy account becomes the recoverer or one of the beneficiary of your safe, uh,
Mm.
which is probably the direction where the Ethereum accounts are going to in the future with smart accounts and recovery modules and things like that. So we want to have it very quickly. Um, and yeah, so to answer your question, in DevConnect, we're going to have something that people can use.
Yeah, amazing. That's super. I have a bunch of questions, but I want to keep this relatively short, so I'm gonna skip over those and talk to you more at DevConnect. But one question we've been asking a lot is around funding and funding for open source. And I'm curious to hear a little bit like how you funded yourself so far, any challenges you might have had in the funding aspect, and like whether because I think you're building quite open source, right? So how are you approaching that? Do you feel that there's enough funding around for open source projects? And yeah, what are you thinking?
I mean, it's a very difficult maze to go through. But yes, our first version is fully open source because it was ETH Global CAN and it was completely based on the important part was the cryptography, and it's not possible to have closed source cryptography, or it could be possible, but everyone will think that no one will trust your system. Um, and so the important parts are open source. we're thinking about how to make the part that is just happening in our server open source. Is it something that is useful or not? Because it doesn't necessarily change the trust assumptions for the user, because at the end of the day, they don't need us to recover in the worst case scenario.
Mm,
We hope that like in 20 years we're still here and we are still like doing our job. But if we're not, the user can still access their account.
yeah.
Um, and so that part specifically, we're thinking about it. Uh, but everything that has to do directly with what is running on the user's computer, yes, is open source.
Hmm.
And especially the cryptography, and also the encryption of the, like also the how the file is set up, all of that is based on open source standards. Maybe some people have heard of KeePass, the password manager. um, and they have like an open source standards. We're using the same kind of file as they are. And when it comes to funding, I mean, for our team currently, we're completely bootstrapped. It's a passion project for the both of us, for Seb and I. We've been working on things like that before. So I think currently we're just, like we're just investing ourselves and our own time and energy and money in this project. It is something that we're thinking about. It's not the main focus currently, because the main focus is DevConnect and having something that works for people. But quickly after DevConnect, there's going to be a question of, are we going the route of getting funding from grants for our open source works, or is it or are we trying to go the route of very high growth, which we think is possible, because we believe that many people are going to require backups very soon, and as more people enter. Um, and so if we go in that route, we would also be looking for VC funding, but it's not a question
Hmm.
that we're asking currently, because we want to have the product, we want to get it
Hmm.
in front of people, we want people to actually use it.
Hmm.
But those are the two paths that we're seeing. There might be a path in between that is kind of both. Um, we participated in a Gitcoin grant, the privacy Gitcoin grant that happened a few weeks ago, or three weeks ago.
Hmm.
And so all of that are things that we're exploring. Um, but I think the decision will come when we have um, more feedback from users. Um,
Quick
and
question.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt, but because I
yeah,
think it's an interesting thing to explore. Do you think that like high growth and open source are mutually exclusive, or do you see a path for high growth with open source as well? Just it sounded like you see them as two
yeah.
different.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're exclusive, but it's just in the way you think about, at least in my experience, the way you think about fundraising is, like if you go in the open source way, you can still do fundraising, but it's not going to be from the same VC. It's not going to be for the same goals necessarily. I believe that if we were going in the VC route, we would still be building open source, but our focus would be on trying to get a lot of traction, trying to create markets, find the markets if it's there, or create a new one of people that want their backups. It could be partnering with a lot of different wallets. If we go the VC route, our edge um, would be the network of the VCs that could introduce us to various wallets, and that would be our focus. If it was on the open source, if we went the open source route, the grants route, etc., I think our focus would still be about building, but the product would be it would be a more maybe targeted user base,
Mhm.
because we wouldn't have the resources necessarily to go get a lot of partnerships with wallets that are serving hundreds of thousands of users. And
Yeah.
so our focus would be on targeting niche markets, maybe a small wallet, for example, like a wallet that has a few thousand users, but that is very open to making sure that their users never lose their
Mhm.
digital assets. It would be more like that. So they're not exclusive. It's just about like the focus that we would have. Ultimately, we
Mhm.
want both, right? Even if we go the grants road, we want super high growth, but it would
Yeah.
happen in a different way. Um,
Oh, super. Thank you for sharing that. I really, that's really appreciate it because with Switzerland and the work we're doing, we're thinking a lot about like how to fund open source tech better, and it's really useful to have the perspectives of builders on that. So thank you. Um, yeah, maybe one last question is, what would you like to share with people about Backup Buddy or about anything you're doing before we go, and which social media tags they should check out to follow you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're on backupbuddy.io. You can already put your email if you want to be immediately in the list when the private beta launches. We're also on backupbuddy_io on Twitter. Me personally, it's YSSF_IO. And I think the thing that we've learned working on Backup Buddy until now, since Switzerland and since If Global can, is that everyone kind of thinks about it. Everyone is somewhat afraid of losing their assets, but it's very difficult to imagine a bad situation happening to real wallets because you know roughly where your seed phrase is. You know that you will be able to do something, but when it happens, you're willing to, I don't know, pay like a garbage disposal company to go through all of it to get a USB key, and you would be willing to pay a lot for it. It depends on what you have there, but you'd be willing to do that. And uh, I kind of want people to think about what happens if their tiny black swan event happens in their own
Mm,
wallets. If they lose access to it, like what actually happens for people around them, for themselves, and especially not just for digital, if not for just digital assets, but also their digital identity. Their ENS maybe is tied to a few important things. Maybe they're signing in multi-sigs for the crypto people. But even outside, we see people using Farcaster, for example. They have their digital identity, more and more of it on also on in a wallet. But that wallet is not necessarily used for financial transactions, but it is still used for something probably more important. And
mm.
so we can, if those are subjects that you are interested in, if you think that there is something missing here with social recovery, with backups, and with the hope of having mass adoption of self-custodial wallets in the future, then feel free to check Backup Buddy on Twitter and on our website.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you for that. And I lied. One last thing. Who would you suggest us to speak to as a Diacaday person? Anybody that you have in mind as an amazing builder in the space?
Yeah, I mean, I could give a lot of people. The first one would probably be my co-founder, so that we can talk about Backup Buddy more. Um, and But more generally, I think people in DIAC, there are quite a few people that are like very DIAC aligned that have been working on it before we had a word for it, before we had DIAC.
Yeah.
Maybe the teams in the Safe team, the Gnosis team, the people that are in those teams, some of them were in Switzerland, um, and because they've worked on infra on resilient infra, and now there are still like Gnosis and Safe and these companies, these groups of people are still working on various very DIAC aligned projects, even in trying to redefine money. And so I would like to see their take on DIAC subjects.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, couldn't be a more challenging um, environment than what Gnosis and Safe have built with the multi-sigs there. So yeah, totally. I will reach out to them. Thank you. And thank you, Youssef, for coming on. It's been great to have you. I really, really appreciated your explanations of Backup Buddy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it launched and using it. I think it's an amazing product, and I'm super glad to see something of this quality and value that came out of Switzerland. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ayla.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.